Obviously, every website has a way to browse its content, and those would be um, the website navigation links for the most part. Now we have in our website three navigation links, and those would be the home, a section which will lead us to a section page, and an external link like Google. For instance, if I click on Google, it will take me to the Google page. But for now, I'm just going to click back. Now, as said, in order to have functional navigation, you have to have some kind of pages to point to. As said, in our case, I already have an index and a section.html page which I created. And we'll see further on the lesson that I also have another folder which is called pages, and inside the pages folder I have a sub page. Going to go back, and besides the resources to point to, you also need a way to be able to point to those resources, and those are called hyperlinks. Now let's edit the index.html, and let's take a look at our navigation, and the navigation would be here. As you can see, we already have three links: home, section, and Google's an external one. Now the the link itself is XHTML tag, and it's composed as usual as an left angle bracket. Then we have the A, which is for it's the tag for hyperlinks. Then we have an attribute which is called hyperreference, and this attribute is by far the most important within a hyperlink, and the attribute has the pointer value, which means it points to the resource. In our case, it's the index.html. Then I have an ending tag with A, and then I have text between the start and an end tag. So this is the way that the hyperlink works. So in order for me to link to something, then I have to create link, then a hyperreference to where I want to send. Okay, it will be about .html. Then I'll have to close it to make sure it doesn't encompass everything, and then place a text inside about us. If I save, I'm going back and refresh, I have another link here. However, I'm going to delete this. Okay, and refresh. Okay, this is so good. Now, as said, this is the way that I can browse to different pages or external sources. Now, I'm already having a section page. As said, if I click on the section link, then I'm going to switch to another page, and now we can say it's starting to look better and better as a website. So look pretty cool, is it? I'm sure it is. Then of course I can use my navigation to also go back to home page. Okay, so just to recap, the A tag defines an anchor that can be used to refer to an resource. It can be a local one, or it can be an external one, as we have seen with Google. Now, the main three ways to point to resources, which are also called URI, which stands for Uniform Resource Indicator, or you can call it also as URL, which stands for Uniform Resource Locator. Now the hyperlink has also two more attributes that we're going to learn about, and one of them would be title, and the title specifies extra information about an element, and we'll use exactly this. We just type in the attribute title, and then within the title some descriptive text. Let's say this is home page. Save it, go back and refresh, and now if I'm going to move my mouse over home, I'm going to see description, a title. However, I've misspelled it. Home page. Okay, go back and refresh again, move my mouse over, and I have a title. Of course, you can specify a title for of the free ones. So let's go here and say title, section page, actually it's sections page, and I say at Google external hyperlinks, hyperlink. So we've saved, gone back and refresh, and now on mouse over we have titles for all three of them. Okay, now we have one more important attribute, and that would be target. But before we go to target, let's see what happens when I press on Google again. Of course, it loads the Google page. However, it loads in my page, in my last page. So it basically replaces all my content with Google content. Okay, and this is maybe not exactly what I want. So if I'm going to go back, let's see if we have another way to load the page in a different page, maybe in a new page. In this case, we're going to use the target attribute, which basically specifies where to open the linked document. And we have a couple of options. It's blank, which opens in a new, completely new page, or we could have self, which opens by default in the same page where you have your website. There are a couple of more, but we're not going to learn about them right now. We'll see in previous lessons when we're going to also learn about frames. So obviously we may have something like frame name and it will load in a different frame, but as said, we're going to see a little bit later on. But for now, let's just use blank and see what happens. After I save, I'm going to go back and refresh, and now let's click on Google again. And there you go, it opens in a different page, and I also have my page open. Okay, this is very good. You just close it. Now we have to take into account also that the A tag can be used in three ways, and those would be the absolute URL, the relative URL, and the link that can be defined in the same document as an anchor using a name or an ID. Now the URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator, and it's basically the address that you're going to see most of the times in your Chrome area, where you have the address of the website, and this is an URL. So this URL term you'll get to be familiar with it, and you'll be using it very often from now on, because it's a standard, and Of course, everybody's using it. So as said, there are three ways. We already seen two of them, and this one would be a relative one. This one, it is again a relative, and this is an absolute URL. Now, to have a better understanding of the difference between the absolute, relative, and the anchor with name and ID, we have to understand the basic structure of an URL. And I'm just going to have it here. Let's say the URL basic structure would be something like this. You have the protocol, okay, which is the hypertext transfer protocol, okay. Then you have the colon, and then you have two slashes. Then right after these two slashes you have the domain name, which is basically your website name. It can be my website, okay, or just do it like this. Then you have a page name, basically index.html, or some kind of a page name. Sometimes the page name can be also within a folder. However, the main three things are the area where you are going to find your web page, which in our case is HTTP. Then you have the colon, then you have the two slashes, and then you have the domain name or website name, and then you have finally the page name. And of course, as I said, we can also have sometimes this section, and this one would be the possibility where we can define a link directly in the same document. Basically, we're not loading any other page anywhere, we're just sending the user to another part of our page, our current page. But we can see we could actually also send on another different page to a different section. But basically, this is what we do. We send the user to a specified section within a document. Now, this would be a full and absolute URL. Basically, I'm telling the link that he needs to go to the specified zone, HTTP, and to load this website. Now, the relative one would be starting from here on, okay, and then would be without the first part, without the absolute one, and then the section one would be exactly as explained, defined by this DS sign, and then you have a name for the anchor, which can be a name or an ID. So let's see how we can actually use this in our website. Okay, so we can have a better understanding. I'm just going to delete this. So obviously, the most easiest one, which I'm sure you've already understood, it's the absolute URL, and this would be stating the complete address, okay, with the HTTP and then with the domain name. This is the easy one, but then we have a bit much more complicated to understand the other two, which is the relative URI and the the anchor name. Okay, however, the relative, as you can see here, is my index.html. So how exactly do my browser understand where do I want to send him? So wherever I state a relative URL, basically what I'm telling the browser is that you have to search this page within my website, and whenever he forms the entire URL, he will always place HTTP, then my website, and then my index.html. But I don't need to actually type in everything right there. I might just as well use my index.html, and he will automatically compose the address. And as you can see here, he always gets the full address to your the full path to your resource. Then of course the obvious question would be, why don't I just state all the time my full address here? Well, for once, it's a bad idea, because if you're let's say you change you move your entire website to another address, and it will be like my new website, okay, your address. And if you have an old link which says mywebsite.com, obviously if my current web address will be my new website.com, when I'm trying to click on index.html, it will not send me to my new website.com, it will send me to an old address, which is mywebsite.com. So using relative URL, it's by far a way better thing to do with your website, to make sure that you have a valid URL, no matter where you can move your website into the future. Now this is just a small part of the relative URL and the way they work. We'll see soon also how else can we use this. But first, I'm just going to save. Let's go to the section page and see how we can use also the third option, which would be the anchor name or ID. So what I'm trying to do is to build a navigation system in my section page, and whenever the user will click on those relative links, then it will be sent to a different section of the page, and I want to send him to the section 1 or the section 2 or the section 3. So how exactly I'm going to do that? Well, let's get back to our page, to our folder, I'm sorry. Right click on section and then edit. Now let's build somewhere around here, okay, a small sub-navigation. So actually, let's build it here. Just going to play another AJAR. And then I'm going to say my tag A, hyperreference, then I'm going to close also the end tag. Between the start and the end tag, I'm going to say section 1. Then I'm going to say here the number sign. Okay, I've told you last time diez, which is wrong. It's the number sign actually. Then I'm going to say to specify a name of my link, and let's say of course section 1. It can be anything. It can be just simple sec1 or just sec1 or sec1 or whatever you have to. For my purpose, I'm just going to say section 1 is much more logical for me. It's nice. Then I'm going to duplicate these two, and I'm going to say section 1, section 2. I'm going to also say section 3. And now I've saved, and I go back and refresh. Okay, now we have 3 links. However, if I'm going to click on them, nothing is going to happen, at least in our page. If I'm going to take a look now on my URL top bar, I'm going to see that right around here I have a section 1. Basically, when I clicked on it, my browser tried to add the relative anchor to my document. So if I click on section 2, then I'm going to see at the end that it added section 3, and this is also the behavior for section 3. However, he didn't find the specified section because I didn't tell him where exactly. So he just composed the address, but he never redirected me, let's say, to section 3. And why? Oh, this is why. Because I have declared an anchor, but I have not specified the exact target. So if I want to also be sure that the browser finds the target, I need to go somewhere to specify it. So let's go to the section 1. And we can do this linkage in 2 ways. So as I said, it is either a name or an ID. If I want to have a name, I just need to encompass all of this h3. I can say actually let's not let's do it like this. A href, sorry, it's a name A, and I'm going to close it. And as you can see now, I have a link with an attribute called name, and the attribute will have the exact value as the hyperlink that we've stated in the top where it says section 1. And I'm going to copy that and I'm going to say section 1. However, I'm going to delete the number sign. So we do not need it. We only need to have the exact same name. Okay. I'm going to save it. It doesn't matter if I have a class section 1 because it will not look for the class, it will look for the name in this case. Okay. So I can do it like this. If I'm going to save it, go back and refresh, and now click on section 1, watch what happens. You see, I've got redirected to my section. So this is the way that the section will work. So let's do it again. Also with the second one. Okay, I'm going to save and refresh. Of course, after refresh, it took me back to the section 1 because at the end of my complete URL, I have also the section 1. If I want to reset everything, I'm just going to delete this one and enter. And upon refresh, I'm going to be at the top of the page. So if I click on section 1, it will take me to section 1. If I'm going to click on section 2, well, it did not take me to section 2. That's because I forgot to change this section. You see, 1 second of not paying attention, and tada, we already had an error. So just make sure you have different names. Never have copies because it will not work anyway. So let's put section 2, go back and refresh, and of course it takes me to section 2, either section 1 or section 2. Of course I have to scroll back up. Obviously it will work also for the section 3. However, I'm not going to use the A name, and for section 3 I'm going to use an ID. Now, as said, the ID can be used either on A ID, sorry, A, oops, and complies like this, and then the name would be section 3. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to delete this. Okay, refresh it, and now click on section 3 and it will take me to section 3. As said, the ID, it's used on every tag. Now the reason for which I chose to use an ID is because the name is a deprecated attribute and in the future it will not be used any longer. But anyway, I wanted to show you both of them, so you'll not be surprised later on when you'll also find out about name and you'll ask yourself, well, what the heck this guy did actually told me. Because look, I have also another options. Yes, you have, but just bear in mind it's deprecated and in the future will not be erased. Then of course David's question would be, if I can use an ID, why do I also need the A tag? Of course you don't need it. You just delete this, go back to H3 and place the ID there, and the result will be exactly the same. I refresh the page and now click on section 3 and it will work just as fine. Okay, so I strongly recommend just to get rid of the naming and just use simple ID, section 2, then delete this one as well because we don't need it. And of course, as you can see, we also have a one less tag, so it's even better for us. Okay, so I think we're good to go. Just delete this stuff, press enter. Now I can refresh again. Section 1, it works. Section 2, it works. Section 3, it works again. Now let's see if we want to achieve the same effect but actually send the user on one of the section from another page, from the home page. So let's see how exactly can we do that. Let's first go to our home page and let's close to the section HTML. I already have opened the source for index.html. So as said, we want to send the user from here to the sections directly on the other page. And if I want to do this, then I'll have to start using the relative URI in combination with the anchor one. Okay, this would be pretty interesting, is it? So let's do it again. Okay, we have a reference, then we know that it is a number sign, and we say section. Let's send it just to section number 2 directly. Okay, just place 1, just A, and then we just going to say section 2. Okay, however, if I'm going to use it like this, because I'm on another page, I'm going to save it and refresh. Because I'm on another page, and if I'm going to click section 2, we will get the same effect on the other page. I will have the section 2 added at the end of the URL. However, it will not send me to any kind of section because within this page there is no section 2, obviously. So I know that the section 2 is on the section page, not on index. So what I need to do? Well, we need to tell him now the relative page, so which is the section.html, and then we have the anchor towards the section of the document, which is said is composed of a number sign and section 2. Now if I'm going to save it, I know that I've specified exactly, please use the page section.html, and in that page please send the user to the section 2. And of course we also know that the browser will compose the rest of the address, which is whatever my name site .com and wherever I want to end up. But as explained, I don't need to actually say that, because the browser will know how to interpret and compose the entire address. So I think we're all set. You just save it and test it. I'm going to refresh, go back and click on section. Now before you click, if you look down on the bottom, you see on the left bottom of my screen, you'll notice that it says file colon / whatever, the entire path, which ends up with section.html and the section 2. So as you can see, the browser composed the entire address, and if I click on it, then it will take me, oh, something is wrong. that's because I have forgot to say an S here. This is incredible. I'm going to refresh it again. It's my bad. The page actually, it's called sections. It's incredible how many mistakes I made in this one single training. It's okay. As you can see, if you miss one letter, then the browser will not find it. So we fixed that as well. Now we're going to go back and refresh, and now if I click, tada, it works. Come on guys, it's not really that hard. You just have to pay attention not to forget any kind of letters, okay? So if you get an error and you cannot find the page, always make sure you check the the hyperlink before you submit any changes, okay? But that's fine. So it works absolutely beautifully and greatly. And of course, we could do a link that will take us back from here to wherever we were. Of course, you can experiment with this kind of stuff, and you can play around and see what kind of results you're getting to. So of course, you can always go back to the home, and now we know on the home page, you click on the section 2, and it'll take you to the section page, which you have it here, which is sections actually, and then direct you to section 2, obviously. Okay. Now we've seen how this actually works. Now let's take the relative URL a little bit further and see what happens if I have pages in a different folder, and we'll see what happens there. So let's see how we can call up the file that's it's located within another folder. I said at the beginning of our lesson that I have created a folder called pages, and within this folder I have a subpage.html. So in order to get to it, I have to first make another link, okay, and then point correctly to the page. So I'm going to go back and right click on index and edit. Now I want to place my link here. Just type Google, say okay, space shref. Okay, then the name of the page, it's subpage. Then I'm going to say subpage.html. Let's see if I got okay, it's correctly. Now I know that my page is within another folder. So at this point, if I'm going to save, go back and refresh, and click on my subpage, then the browser will tell me, I'm sorry, I couldn't find your page. And the reason is that I didn't specify also the folder. So he will just compose the rest of the address plus the page name without the folder. So in order to fix that, I need to say pages, the name of the folder, and then a slash. So I would spare the I would separate the name folder from the file. So now if I'm going to save it, go back and refresh, and I'm going to click, ta-da, it takes me to the correct subpage page. Obviously, I couldn't find any other name for the subpage at that point. However, you can name it whatever you like to. Now I can see a couple of differences between my subpage and my main page. For once, I don't have the header as orange, and there's some spacing missing around here. And look at this table, it looks quite awful to me. Now let's see why exactly this happens. I'm just going to close my edited index. I'm going to go back here, so make sure you are in the pages, and then right click on subpage and edit with Notepad. Now I know that I have a style where it loads from, and I already have it specified here. However, I know also that my page is within another folder, and my style.css is one folder up. So basically the folder pages and the style.css are located in the same root folder. Normally you could do it like this. You have one slash and save it, and basically relative URL that begins with a slash always replaces the entire path name of the base URL. So the base URL would be the root folder. Normally this should work. So if I'm going to go back and refresh, I can see there is no change whatsoever. Then I just said normally it should work, but why it didn't work? Well, that's because we are working on offline mode, not on the online mode. This is something that you have to bear in mind. So usually on a server, the root folder is properly set, and when I'm going to use the slash and I'm going to replace the entire path name, that means the browser will interpret it as www, sorry, too many W, your website.com, then the style.css. However, because I'm on offline mode, I have to place two periods and then a slash, and that means a directory is called, and it's called in a relative URL that indicates the parent directory, essentially stripping off everything up to the previous slash and in the base URL. So that means effectively I told him, okay, whatever URL you're into it right now, then go back up one folder and then load the style CSS. So if I'm going to save it, go back and refresh, now it's going to work. Obviously it works very well. So just bear in mind this. You can use it like this when you're on offline mode and it should work very well also on online mode. But however, this will work only on the online mode, because as said, a relative URL that begins with a slash always replaces the entire path name of the base URL, and if you have like this, then you're calling up a directory that it's based one folder back. Okay, so this is what you're telling to the browser. Now everything loads properly, and I have my color back, I have the spacing, and there you go. This table looks very well formatted. As said, it is a table, which obviously if you're going to take a look down here, you have a new tag which is called table, which has also a bunch of other containing tags like tbody, trow, table row, table header, and table cell. But this is something that we are going to talk about later on. Just as a summary, a table is used usually to display table or data because it's displayed within columns and rows. It's very appropriate to use it for displaying table data. Sorry, I have to drink a little bit of water. My throat is sore. However, within this table, I just placed a couple of things regarding the relative URL and the absolute URL. So basically, the relative one, as you can see here, about me.html, if I have a page, then it will load the page that is contained within the root folder. And the root folder would be interpreted by the website, the browser, I'm sorry, like this. You have the HTTP, then you have my website and about me. And then if you have a folder name which is called about me / and then it will place the website address and then about me, and it will load whatever file he finds in that folder, and it should be index.html or about me.html. This will always depend on how the website files are set up and how the host is set it up. Then you have a folder and the file. This is something that we already done. So you can see you have your website and then the folder and then about HTML. You have / as explained, / always replace the entire path name. If you have 2 slashes, always replaces everything from the host name onwards. So basically to replace everything that starts from the end of the host name. Then if you have one period, I'm sorry, and a slash, then this is going to form an address like this. It basically tells the browser to add the address and then the folder name, which is the folder parent. And this one already done it, so it's basically one folder up from the current folder. This is pretty much the same behavior, only we're also specifying the name of the file that we're trying to get from the other folder. And the last one is a multiple level URL. Basically, you are in 1 to 3, basically third levels down, and you want to go back up 3 levels. So obviously you can compose this for as many as you like. But for further reference, this is a very bad way and an ugly way to use it, because most of your websites will be hosted online. You just have to use most of the time this one in composition with this one. So basically you are in some kind of let's say you know, to a href, and then either like this, my page.html, okay, my page, or just simply like this if you're loading the entire contents. And you can always have a folder, my pages, like this or like this. But try avoiding using things like this. It will be very difficult for you, not to mention if for some reason you're moving my page in a different folder altogether. So my pages will be maybe one level up for some reason, and then If you're calling up like this, then it will not work. So use it either like this or like this, or just simple like this. So this would work very well with the content. Okay. One quick thing I want to also fix, because I almost forgot about it. You've noticed within the page that we have this summer word here, which is a bit out of context, and that's the reason because we have an image that's placed here, and obviously it has a name, but it's not pointing to where it should point, is it? Just because we are, as of course we already know, in the pages folder, and my image is in my images folder. Okay, so then we already learned, we're just going to say images. Okay, I want to specify, please go up one folder and then go back to images folder and load this image. Let's see, save it and refresh. It works. Okay, this works absolutely beautiful. So with all the things in mind, we pretty much covered almost everything with the hyperlinks, and we're going to move to our next lesson, where I'm going to show you how to stylize a little bit hyperlinks and make it a little bit much more beautiful than they are right now with just a simple blue. Okay, I'm going to explain also the different kind of states of the hyperlinks.